I'm going to be sharing 5 tips for you to make hard-hitting drums on the MPC. Now, when it comes to making your drums hit hard, you just have to understand the 3 concepts, which is transient shaping, frequency, like harmonics, and then dynamics, which is like compression. And we'll get more into that as I explain throughout the tips. And you want to stay tuned until the end because I'm going to really be giving you more of the advanced stuff towards the end. And the 3rd tip is my favorite tip that I just like to go to and just have my drums knock very fast. So without further ado, let's just dive into the 1st tip, which is leveling. So let's hear how not leveling your beats properly impact your beats. So you can just hear that everything is just being drowned by the melody and the bass of the melody. And then I'm gonna just start off with the kicks and I'm gonna just solo the kicks. So if I click the meter, my kicks is hitting around -18. What I like to do is turn it up to at least -9. So let's just get that down. And the reason why I like -9 as a starting point because it gives me a lot of headroom when I add in the other drums and add in the other melodies. Because if your kicks is already exceeding past -3, then there's not going to be a lot of headroom when it comes for you to put your melodies and everything else. And headroom just means your mix not exceeding to -0 where it would clip. And then I'm going to bring in that snare. And usually the snare kind of matches up with the kick. Now, yes, always use your ears, but these are just guidelines that a lot of producers and engineers follow. Usually the kicks and the clap is like really, on the same level as each other. And then you have your hi-hats. Some people like their hi-hats loud. I'm not a person that really like my hi-hats loud. I like it to really be less than the impact of my kick and my snare. So we're just gonna turn that down a bit. We can unsolo and then hear it back now. Now that's sounding a lot better. When it comes to leveling your beats, I always recommend for the trap genre and the hip hop genre, usually you want your drums to stick out more. So start off with your kicks and then your claps and then your hi-hats and your percussions. You could either even start off with your 808 and your kick, but just make your drums be the forefront and then everything else falls underneath that. Now, tip number 2, vintage effects. So there's these vintage effects that are stock plugins on the MPC. You just go all the way down to vintage effect. I really like the MPC 60, and let's just hear that when it's off. That's like night and day. You could just hear how it's giving that low end of the kick a lot more emphasis. What you can also use is the SP1200. SP1200 to me gives more of that airy feel to your drums, still having the knock as well. So let's hear that with it off. Yeah, so you can hear that it just added a bit more of that crunch. There's also vintage effects in the Flavor Pro. So let's actually check out the Flavor Pro. So in the Flavor Pro, you can go down to the SP1200. This is how it sounds when it's off. Yeah, you can just hear it done a lot to it. And you can also see visually distortion, digital, vinyl, timbre. So you could just even mess around with those individual ones. Now for tip number 3, which is my favorite and my go-to when it comes to making your drums knock. You want to go to...
We interrupt this program to bring you a special announcement.
If you've been liking all these tips and tricks so far, I have many more tips in my new ebook that I just dropped called Sauce It Up. It is a collection of my YouTube shorts, but in the ebook, I name everything to where it's more convenient for you to find what you're looking for right away. You just click on it and then you can just read it, or you could click on the link to send you straight to the video. Now, this is also just a great way if you want to help support the channel. If you've been finding value with my videos, I definitely would appreciate it. So make sure you check out that ebook. Links will be in the description. Now let's just get back into it. You want to go to menu pad 14. Now, a lot of you guys know there's an effect tab over here, but if you press it again, then you have more effects and you want to use the soft clipper. So I can hit my kick and just hear how from off and here's when it's turning on. All I have to do is just go up a little. Like I'm already at 1.7. You already have your drums knocking. That's the easiest way. And this will fall into the category of frequency and harmonics because it's amplifying the sound. And by amplifying the sound is adding more harmonics, adding more frequency to the kick. Let's hear it with the mix. And what you could do too, after you do the soft clipping, then you could kind of do like a gain staging in a sense, because you could have it knock to a certain point and then bring it back down in the levels. Let's say I wanted to go crazy. Now this is gonna be super loud, so I'm gonna wanna turn down my kicks, but it's gonna sound more crunchier because there's more harmonics added. So now for the last two tips, those are very important of understanding the fundamentals of just having your drums knock harder. So I got another beat pulled up and this is how it sounds. Which brings us to the fourth tip, and that is sound selection. So as you can hear, like these are just regular trap drums, nothing too crazy. I got my kick, clap, hi-hat, open hat, and like a rim shot. I recently just downloaded the DJ Khalil from Native Instruments drum pack, and it's not that the drums that I had before wasn't that good. It's also about the texture that makes it perceive louder, which goes back to dynamic. So let's just hear some of these kicks. Like, they got reverb, they got all type of stuff on it. So I would actually go ahead to add another category to the three from transients, frequency, and dynamic and effects, because reverb could play a big factor in it. Even delay could play a big factor on how you perceive the drums. I'm just gonna be swapping out the kicks and we're gonna hear. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good. So I like how that snare sounds even though it's low, but what we can do is just go to our soft clipper, bring that up. And then do it with our hi-hat. So just from switching out that kick and the snare, it does give it a different vibe. So for me, when I have my drum pattern already done, I really just kind of like to go through other kits and see which one matches the vibe more. So take time when it comes to your sound selection, at least get out the drum pattern and then go through your sounds to see like, okay, the kick could be a bit better or the snare could be a bit better, stuff like that. So the last tip is really the main essence of how to make your drums hit hard. So here's how it sounds. Now we're just going to get into something called transients. What transients are is the peaks of your sound. So you see the kick really starts at this point right here. If your transients are very small like this, then it's not gonna hit. This snare right here could hit a bit harder if the transients were up a bit more. We could go to dynamics and go to air transient. Now, hear what happens when I bring up that attack. Now you can hear some reverb on that snare. So if you do have reverb in your drum loops or just a long tail that you don't want to have there, all you have to do is bring down the sustain, then listen to that reverb on that snare. So what it's doing is cutting the tail short. It's not just even for reverb, it's like to have tighter drums actually makes it perceive louder. So it goes into the dynamic category again. And you can also do the opposite. You can make the tail length a lot longer. So let's hear that with the mix. And keep in mind, we do have an output knob that also works as the soft clipper, and I'll show you that in a second. Make sure the limit is on. Yeah, that just seems to hit a lot harder with a longer tail length for certain beats is gonna be different, so you wanna just mix in context. What you can do too is I could bring down the drum level. You could use this output knob. It kind of works as the soft clipper because it's adding more harmonics. Hear how the drums sound more crunchier now. There you have it. Those are all my techniques of making drums hit harder. So if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Now you know how to make your drums hit hard. Now you gotta have that bounce, man. Without the bounce, your drums can hit hard, but if it ain't got that bounce, ain't gonna be knocking still. So you can watch this video next. Peace.